A party of 450 miners were part of the world's record crowd of 80,000 who were at Wembley to see the Rugby League final between Leeds and Bradford Northern. Excitement was naturally high as the teams came out. Bradford Northern in white knickers and hooped shirts. The Duke of Gloucester met the teams before the kick-off. Before the game started, experts had assured us that Leeds had as good as won the cup, and sure enough it was Leeds who scored first when Cook made no mistake about a penalty. At half-time, the score was still 2-0 to Leeds, but Walters and Davies combined to alter that, Walters going over in the corner. (3-2) to Bradford, and the game was warming up, but many promising starts were brought to a full stop, so to speak. A minute later, Bradford lost their lead, Cook doing the penalty trick again and gaining the very warm approval of his colleagues. Scarcely a moment later, Ward dropped a gem of a goal and Bradford were again in the lead. Bradford now had the better of the game, and in the closing moments, a mistake by Cook allowed Foster to score in a very gentlemanly fashion. So Bradford Northern had won by 8 points to 4, and nothing remained but to collect the cup from the Duke of Gloucester. While reflecting that the experts are not always right, we warmly congratulate Bradford on winning on their first visit to Wembley.
Leeds had not had a try scored against them at all. They had goal kicks but no tries, and they were hot favourites at Wembley. But on the day we did the job and won by 8 points to 4 and came home to thousands upon thousands of people outside the city hall at Bradford. You couldn't put a pin between the people. A most marvellous reception, and that was the start of 3 visits.
Northern lost the trophy the following year, beaten 8-3 by Wigan. But they would regain the famous piece of silverware in 1949 in front of the first ever capacity crowd for a Challenge Cup final.
Price won the toss for Halifax, so Bradford kicked off. Right from the start, this very tough 13-a-side professional battle got going in earnest. One of the most striking variations from the rugby union game is the play of the ball rule. A player, when tackled, is allowed to regain his feet and drop the ball to the ground, when he usually heels it back to one of his team. Bradford's powerful and aggressive tactics were rewarded within 10 minutes when Batten opened with a try far out. Ernest Ward, his captain, converted from a very difficult angle. The Duke of Edinburgh was among those watching the match with keen enjoyment, and in the second half, spectators saw Bradford Northern go further ahead. After half an hour, Ward kicked a penalty, and from now on it was almost all Bradford, though Halifax fought hard, and as you see, this is a real he-man's game. 10 minutes from the end, Foster went over for Bradford. Ward converted to give his side victory by 12 points to 0. He, by God, takes it out of you, says 18.5 stone Frank Whitcomb. Worse than toothache, think Halifax. The cup, a magnificent trophy, was presented to Ward by the Duke.
The Rugby League final was a big Wembley occasion. Workington v Featherstone Rovers. Workington in white shorts kicked off, and in a matter of seconds the first dramatic incident occurred. Featherstone were penalised. Gus Risman, Workington's veteran skipper, took the kick and scored a goal. Another highlight of the match was a smart interception by John Lawrenson in the second half. Racing away on a 70-yard sprint, he finished up neatly between the posts. The kick was child's play for Risman. Near the end, with Workington leading by 18-7, Evans made a final effort for Featherstone. He got over, but had he grounded the ball just before? Anyway, the try was allowed. The trophy was presented to Risman by the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Anthony Evans. Playing a very stout game, were of course all out to level the score. Presently Langfield took a penalty kick and gained 2 of the points. So far so good for St. Helens, but they were still 3 points in arrears. Eventually they drew level when Llewellyn went over for a try which was not converted. St. Helens kicked off in the second half. After about 20 minutes of give and take, a movement started by Greenall resulted in a St. Helens try by Langfield. The kick having failed, St. Helens led by 3 points, and then Hunter, the Huddersfield fullback, was injured, though he was only out of the game for about 10 minutes. In spite of these reverses, Huddersfield now had a brilliant spell, leading to a nice try by scrum half Banks. Cooper converted to put them in front again. It certainly was a match full of thrills. St. Helens, pressing hard, looked very dangerous, and Langfield seized a chance to drop a goal and equalize once more. From now until near the end, it looked as if the result would be a draw. But there was one final thrill in store, another try for Huddersfield and Ramsden's second. Cooper converted, giving Huddersfield a 5-point victory.
The teams were presented to Lord Derby. First Halifax, wearing ring jerseys, now Warrington. Halifax kicked off, and as the cup final got going, supporters roared encouragement from the stand. The first goal came after a quarter of an hour when fullback Griffiths kicked a goal for Halifax. The match continued at high pressure, but close marking made it impossible for either side to break through. Within 10 minutes, Halifax added 2 points to their score with another good kick by Griffiths. So the crowd saw Warrington cross over 4 points behind, but now they kicked off in the second half, determined to close the gap. After 10 minutes of hefty give and take, a Halifax infringement gave Warrington a chance, and Bath took it, 2-4. Halifax came back strongly and on at least one occasion looked like scoring, but Bevan saved the situation for Warrington. 15 minutes later, Bath kicked the equaliser, and so for the first time since the Rugby League Cup finals had been played at Wembley, the result was a draw with a replay to follow. Over 102,000 spectators filled the Odsal Stadium at Bradford, the largest number ever recorded at a Rugby League Cup final. After a draw at Wembley, Warrington and Halifax had returned to the north to resume the contest. Halifax, wearing striped jerseys, kicked off and the replay was on. The Warrington forwards began with some fast, open passing and soon began to threaten the Halifax defence. After only 8 minutes of play, they took the lead when Jim Challoner dashed over the line for the first try. Halifax started to retaliate, but they were prevented from scoring by very sturdy defence. Warrington indeed were playing splendid football, even better than at Wembley. However, things looked better for Halifax 20 minutes later, when they were awarded a penalty inside the Warrington 25. Griffiths took the kick. Half-time and the score, 3-2. Warrington opened up the game again with some very fast passing movements which looked pretty dangerous and, in fact, almost resulted in some additional points. But the scoring didn't start again until 60 minutes after the interval. Then Harry Bath landed a superb goal from 35 yards to increase the lead. Just 4 minutes later, McCormick obstructed Daniels, the Halifax wing 3Q. Griffiths again took the kick. At this stage, Warrington were only 1 point ahead. 7 minutes later, Jerry Holmes, Warrington's scrum half, took a pass near the halfway line. After a splendid run, he got the try that guaranteed victory. With the final score 8-4, the crowd poured onto the field to congratulate the players on a first-rate final.
Headingley was packed with rugby league fans and excitement for the semi-final. Featherstone kicked off, Workington wearing the darker shirts. Rovers soon found themselves hard-pressed as Workington swung into action with a dangerous movement. Presently, a pass by Gibson sent Southwood over to open the score with an unconverted try. Rovers now fought their way down to the enemy line, and Workington had a really hectic time holding them off. It was touch and go, but Featherstone just couldn't get that try. When they were awarded a penalty, however, Fox, who'd missed several earlier on, did the trick. Only 1 point in it at half-time. But after crossing over, Workington went further ahead with a beautiful try by Paskins. He himself added the 2 points. Workington were now well on top, and they continued to have the best of the game. They made certain of appearing in the final when Gibson touched down between the posts. Paskins converted. So it'll be Workington v Barrow for the cup.
Wembley Stadium, the final tie of the Rugby League Challenge Cup competition, and 80,000 spectators, mostly from Lancashire and Yorkshire, of course. Before the kick-off, Field Marshal Earl Alexander of Tunis, chief guest, met the team. Then the Wall of the Roses got going, with Halifax in ring jerseys undoubtedly favourites. It certainly was a real battle, as only the Rugby League game can be, with no quarter asked or given. It was tough going all the time, with no scoring in the first half. The second half opened with a furious St Helens attack. It was completed with a great run by 19-year-old left wing Carlton. Rhodes, the 18-year-old scrum half, converted. Are now playing the sort of football that makes this 13-a-side game such a thrill. Within minutes, Llewellyn went away on the other wing to score another try for Lancashire. Again, Rhodes did the trick, this time from a difficult angle. The Yorkshiremen, 10 points down, fought stubbornly to reduce the arrears, but they had to be content with the penalty. Then St Helens returned to the attack, intent on making victory certain. They did so when Prescott went over for their third try. Rhodes was within inches of doing the hat-trick. When Prescott went up to receive the cup, what a great moment for St Helens, for this was the first time they'd won it. $77,000 fans to see the Rugby League Cup final at Wembley. Now the Gladiators, Barrow with V's on their jerseys and Leeds with rings. The Earl of Derby, president of the Rugby Football League, did the honours. Keith McClellan and Willie Horne at the toss-up. Barrow kick off, and the 56th Rugby League Cup final is on. It's the 22nd at Wembley, and each team has one Wembley victory to its credit. Barrow in 55, and Leeds way back in 36. The game got off to a fine start with fast, forthright rugby. In the 25th minute, Leeds opened the scoring when Quinn took a pass near the line and went over. Barrow came back in real earnest, fighting for the equaliser. They very nearly got it in the first half. Leeds would have increased their advantage if this splendid attempt had been just a bit more to the right. Martial music at half-time echoes the challenge to Barrow. Off again, and Leeds, the younger team, on the offensive. Within a minute, the youngest of them all, Hodgkinson, goes over. Come on, Barrow, this isn't quite good enough. 2 tries down, you'd better get cracking. 5 minutes later, they're awarded a penalty. Horne takes it, and the kick's good. Everybody expected this final to be one of the best ever. Surely no one was disappointed. Leeds soon made their next try when 15.5 stone of Robinson went crashing across. 9 points to 2 and 25 minutes to go. What's Barrow going to do about it? The answer produced one of the most exciting phases of the game. Here it is, a spectacular try by Jackson. Horn takes the kick. And Barrow have made 7 points. But Leeds with 9 have captured the cup. Leeds have now won the Rugby League Cup 7 times. A record achievement to put them shoulder high and on top of the world.
The flags fly at Wembley for another cup final, but this time it's the Rugby League finalists, Wigan in ring jerseys and Workington Town. Before the match started, the American ambassador, Mr. John Hay Whitney, met the teams and was no doubt looking forward to an exciting match. So was every one of the spectators, and pretty exciting it was, right from the kickoff. First, Workington Town got cracking, and Southwood made a brilliant solo run of 40 yards to open the scoring with a try. He himself converted, giving his side a 5-0 lead. But this was the only time Workington were in front. Well, now it was Wigan on the attack, and they lost little time in drawing level. Their first try was scored by Sullivan. Cunliffe converted, 5-all. Wigan, who are now having by far the best of the game, continue to keep Workington on the run. Presently, Barton forced his way across for Wigan's second. Again, Cunliffe converted, 10-5. Workington rallied strongly and launched a series of attacks. It was during one of these that Wigan were penalised. Southwood took the kick, and it was 7-10. So half-time came with the issue still very much in the balance. But Wigan were out to make sure of that cup. They did, in fact, score a third try when McTeague went over. Workington fought to the last. Just before the end, Southwood kicked another penalty, but Wigan won 13-9.
Rugby League supporters on their way to the match of the year, the cup final at Wembley. A great sporting occasion, and about 80,000 there to enjoy every moment of it. Out come the teams. Wigan, in hoop jerseys, no strangers to Wembley, but it's a bit more nerve-wracking for Hull. The Princess Royal was present. Then Wigan kicked off, and were soon locked in combat with the men of Hull. Scoring was prolific. The first was a fine dash by Keith Holden to score under the posts. Punchy Griffiths converted this and all Wigan tries except the last one. In a few minutes, Hull replied with a penalty kicked by Arthur Keegan. Back came Wigan on the attack, and a magnificent run by Michael Sullivan resulted in their second try. (10-2) with conversion, and then it was Wigan again. This time, a breakthrough by David Bolton. Hull, now 13 points behind, slightly reduced the arrears with another Keegan penalty. But there was no holding last year's cup winners, and a try by Billy Boston, plus conversion, left Wigan 16 points ahead at half-time. Soon after the resumption, Hull took a penalty kick, and Keegan got his third. What an orgy of scoring. Never a dull moment. Here's Arthur Keegan's fourth penalty.
Then it was all Wigan again. Their fifth try, a stout effort by McTeague, later awarded the Lance Todd Trophy. Hull fought back, but the next score was Wigan again, and Billy Boston again, unconverted, 28-8. Hull were far from finished, however, and now Tom Finn went over for their only try. Arthur Keegan converted easily. Nearing the end, all-conquering Wigan brought the score to 30-13 with a Griffiths penalty. Record points for Wigan, and from Her Royal Highness, Eric Ashton receives that cup. Wigan's the first team to win 2 successive Wembley Rugby League finals.